Have you ever at any point liked or taken interest in anything at all? And have you at any point shared this interest with people you dislike? If you've answered yes to both of these questions, don't worry, you're not alone. In fact, many people across the world have to deal with this situation. Because as long as there's a group big enough to attract any outside attention, there will always be heinous and horrible people also attempting to get in. And if you do nothing, these repugnant, barely human monstrosities will overtake anything you love and will turn it into something you hate. So what can you do? Do you try and take in these people and make it a larger community? Well, yeah, you can do that, but sometimes it doesn't turn out too good for you. And something you once loved and cherished with all your heart is now something you have to love despite the fan base. This phrase is the ultimate damnation of a community. It represents nuclear fallout, remnants of a once great community now struggling to survive amidst a hostile environment. So I've made it very clear that we cannot give these people free reign. So how do we restrict these people? No matter what you do, once these people worm their way into any community, they will not only make an utter fool of themselves to the general public, but they will do so while branding themselves as a member of their community. And once a community is infected like a lethal disease, it is very hard to suppress the symptoms and even harder to rid yourself of them. Instead, we have to go for a simpler route. We have to avoid these people from coming in the first place. As they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and you're gonna need a pound of drugs if you don't prevent this Armageddon of bozos from taking over your spot. So, obviously we need to gatekeep these people. But we need to be careful because there's a lot of easy pitfalls in gatekeeping. The number one most common mistake is, oh, you're not a real fan. It's lame, it's tired, it's played out, and it's done with. It's just not exclusionary enough. And we have decades of rock fans failing to gatekeep their artists as hard proof of this. Instead, you need more concrete methods. The number one problem with the old method is that it implies that gatekeeping is not personal in the slightest, when it is, in fact, completely personal. It doesn't actually matter how much of a real fan they are. What matters is how fucking annoying they are, and how much you don't want to be associated with these people. To this end, you'll need a solid plan to wall these people off, because without proper countermeasures, like a roach infestation, they will continue to come up over and over and over again until you are now known as a bitch with roaches. And why are roaches bad? Because you're essentially letting freeloaders fuck up your place and bitch you for it. So what's the proverbial can of Raid that keeps these insects out of our basement? Well, as previously stated, we need to get more personal. If you see someone you don't like trying to get into something that you do like, take it as a personal insult directed at you. Because how dare they enjoy anything without your explicit permission? Anyone without your permission, or people you don't like, must have as little fun as you can physically and emotionally let them have. Do not share your joy with any of these people. We must be exclusionary to the highest degree possible. Don't just deny them of being able to enjoy it, deny the fact that the enjoyment even exists. Because non-existent houses don't have roaches, and neither will you. Because no matter how persistent someone is, they will always have a breaking point. Your only goal is to find this point and push them over the edge. But let's be honest, turning away one person isn't actually that hard. So why then do so many groups get infected anyway? Well, simply put, it's a matter of scale. Almost anyone can just exclude at least one person. Go walk down to your local kindergarten if you don't believe me. But what's harder is keeping a category of people out. And this is where people fail. Because the greatest gatekeepers aren't the old men telling you to get off their lawn. They're the master marionettes behind the scenes, carefully manipulating the external appearance of the larger group, much like how a chameleon would, in order to communicate to outsiders to get the fuck out. Because why bother with just gatekeeping when you can instead build an entire wall? Work smarter, not harder. Because the hardest thing you will have to do in your life is regularly engage with people you don't like. Avoid this by having other people do what you're supposed to do. Rile up intense xenophobia so that any attempt to be invaded is preemptively shut down, creating a firewall that repels any weak-willed varlets. Then, you can fortify the security by fostering an unattractive and hostile environment to be in. A toxic environment is a surefire way to keep out noble narcs, who would otherwise champion themselves as a secret police force in an attempt to become the law. However, make sure not to make it too toxic, otherwise you'll start inviting other kinds of company. And often these people will be worse than the people you're trying to keep out. And all this tiresome effort and manipulation may leave you burned out. But you must always remember the pernicious mentality of a toxic gatekeeper. Your enjoyment does not derive from childish and frivolous deeds like actively having fun. It comes from denying others that same opportunity, especially if these rejects are people you flat out hate. Because for that split second, you will be able to feel like God at the Golden Gate, condemning them to the hell of mediocre interests and hobbies. Because really, nothing's better than being a hater.